Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very 35th episode of Cooldown Timer. I am Neefu, and with me today I am joined by Swordmaster to the Extreme, Zingle's Heartman.
Naturally wavy.
And from the thawing post-apocalyptic wastelands of Alaska, Zombie Slayer, Mark Hamilton.
Less zombies than Colorado.
So we've been having a lot of fun with these overthinking topics over the last couple weeks, and we thought it would be fun to overthink the post-apocalypse this week.
It's funny because we've been saying overthinking the apocalypse, but technically we are thinking about... I'm overthinking our overthinking of the apocalypse.
Okay, so in the case of an apocalypse, in terms of like a Fallout 3 or Walking Dead type...
So radiation monsters, because those are fun.
Yeah, basically the collapse of society type stuff. How would you respond to the post-apocalypse? Or how would you survive in the post-apocalypse?
Well, I would find Mark. That would be the first order of business.
That would be quite a quest.
Yeah, it would.
Considering I'm in Alaska.
I know exactly what I would do.
What?
I would get a bunch of my dad's guns. My dad has a large armory in the house. And then I would trek across the pass to my girlfriend's family's house.
Ooh, that would be a good place.
Because they live on a farm in eastern Washington, so it's basically flat, 360 degrees around. And they've got grain silos that are a couple hundred feet up that you could stand on and look a full distance all the way around, and they have a basement.
Here's the problem, though. That's a great place in theory, but where are you going to get resources? Where are you going to go raiding and looting? Because, I mean, you've got wheat in abundance. Good for you.
But the
man cannot live on bread alone. And you can't even make bread.
It's great farming land.
Yeah.
It's a farm.
But it's also like a 10-minute drive to anywhere.
Who says we'd need to go anywhere? We'd wait out whatever the big...
How would you survive?
How would you not survive there?
Tell me how you would survive.
Well, no, I see Neefu's point. He will theoretically have plenty of food. Now, there is a question of will the irrigation system still work?
And that land is so dry you can't work it without it.
There's
but it's
you
good.
went to the pond.
It is farmland.
The irrigation
so
pond.
we're better off than a lot
There's
of
a
places.
huge pond of water that's left over.
That's true. But how long would that last you?
Well, there are ways to make it longer lasting. I mean, if it was obvious that the end of the world had come, I'm sure there would be ways to save it and keep it cool.
I don't think that would be the best place in the apocalypse. There's tons of land around it, but it's so far to anywhere to get resources that you don't have on the farm would be a bigger task than it would be somewhere else.
Like what sort of resources?
That's true, but there's one thing to consider here. And that is, I think in any post-apocalyptic end of civilization scenario, your biggest danger is going to be raiders. Other humans that are also trying to survive and want your stuff.
Right.
And in the middle of nowhere.
But there are different kinds of middle of nowhere. I mean,
for instance, a farm, the distance does make you somewhat safe. However, being a farm with silos makes you a target. Hungry people, possibly on ATVs with machine guns, might show up looking for food.
Now
the question is, when they get there, will you get in a standoff with them and possibly
he lives
die,
a block
or will
down
you
the
become
road?
their willing
How do we know he'll survive? He
has
dead.
weapons. More weapons.
It's not all about weapons.
It is a lot about weapons.
I would want to get my hands on a crossbow, or just a longbow.
I'll bring mine.
I mean, they're accurate enough to work, and they're quiet. I mean, we're not getting silencers unless anyone knows how to make a silencer, and I know they're easy to make if you know the basics, but I don't know how to make them.
But they all, to the best of my understanding, they don't work like they do. In
still
real
make
life,
noise.
they don't work like they do in Splinter Cell.
Right.
Honestly, what's going to be tricky, even if you find ways to solve possible
her uncle has
irrigation
cows
problems,
right down the road. So
you need to learn how to make cheese.
Is to build your own tiny little micro-society. In other words, you're going to need more people. You're going to need more people to help on the farm, and you're going to need people to help defend against raiders. So the question is, how are you going to vet these people?
My worry about a place like that would be that I would want to be in a place with trees. That's a lot easier to hide.
Oh, wait. Actually, that's a good question. I just realized. What are you going to do for fuel? It gets cold in the winter in eastern Washington.
Ooh, that is one thing I had not thought about. Because I tend to avoid winter over there as much as I can.
But winter is coming.
Well, the stuff the chaff left over from the wheat. I mean, I guess that would depend upon
That wouldn't last you all winter, though.
That would 8,000 acres of chaff.
Of chaff, though, that burns.
I know,
quickly.
but chaff goes up really fast.
And that's like I mean, it's great starter. That would be great starter, and you would have to store it all because if it got wet, it wouldn't burn.
True. And again, that would also depend upon when in the season the post-apocalypse occurred. Honestly, no. That's one thing that I had not thought of.
Yeah.
Unless there would be they are like machine expert people. They build their own crap. They like you know about the motorized bar stool, right?
There's definitely some cool tools there.
The wind there's a ton of wind. Depending upon what gear they had available, they could potentially build up a wind turbine thingy. The wind there is crazy, which would then be able to power the house's heating stuff.
Possibly.
Well, I definitely gotta say, people with the know-how to make stuff is a great asset. Greater even than a silo full of grain.
I'm learning how to make beer.
See, that would be a great asset because we could trade it.
It would be a great commodity.
It reminds me of that, there's a Glove and Boots video where they talk about the end of the world, and they say how hillbillies are your best friends because they know how to do things like hunt and survive. And then he says, just make sure that you're useful. Like, what? Like, yeah, they're not just going to take you in just because. You have to have a useful skill. Yours can be making alcohol.
Feed the hillbilly.
I am okay with this.
I totally know what my skill in the post-apocalypse would be. Mark, I bet you can guess it.
Making stuff?
Yeah, it'd be making things out of nothing. You could bring me a bunch of junk that you found from the local place you just raided, and I could make it into something useful. I do that. That's what I do.
You have a certain ingenuity about you.
Heck yeah. And like the one thing I'm not good at is with like super technology, and that wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Okay, I've been thinking. Okay, so one of the things that in my big huge plan of doing this stuff, in order to cross the mountains, I would have to go through an immense amount of trees, a large forest, and
Fir on one side, pine on the other.
yeah, which I mean, that's one of those things where I mean, I guess the distance from the large freeway would depend upon how. Or would influence how many people I run across.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on the freeway.
Oh, I would not.
Though,
I would
how
stay
much-
very, very far away from.
How much mountain climbing experience do you have?
Zip, zero, none, nil.
Yeah, how are you gonna get
Your biggest
there?
problem is going to be food crossing the Cascades, assuming it isn't winter, assuming ideal conditions.
Yeah, let's just hope
it's going to
the
take you a long
post-apocalypse
time.
doesn't occur during the winter.
I think that is when it comes to like the actual survival in the woods.
I need someone else to help
Yeah,
me.
you don't have any experience, do you?
No, absolutely not. I would need somebody else to help me.
Mark and I were into
And
that,
food is hard to find in the forest.
especially in winter.
I'll eat grass.
You'll die.
That was poison grass.
I mean, do you know how to make
That
snares?
was the deadly face
No,
melt
I don't.
grass.
I don't know how to do squat survival stuff, dude. I was in the Boy Scouts all of a month to get my cinematography merit badge, and then I quit.
That's kind of weird. It's like a lame story.
I also got like Citizenship of the World or something.
Oh, yeah.
I think I got one more, but
Those are the worst. Anyway,
Well,
let's not talk
assume
about merit
let's
badges.
assume ideal conditions. It's
Okay,
summer. So if
it's-
it's
yeah.
winter, you're just
Summer
dead.
is coming.
You're just dead.
oh, like if it's summer, then there's gonna be a huge crop of wheat there.
Yeah.
Well, let's forget about the farm right now. Let's
You have to
focus
get
on
to
you
the
getting
farm
over those
first.
mountains.
Yeah.
You won't need to know how to make a fire from scratch in the summer. Nights should be fairly
Well, I mean,
warm.
not to mention, you'd be able to get a hold of matches and lighters and crap. Still.
Yeah. but heat isn't a problem. Water shouldn't be a problem either, because the
It's the
Cascades are
West.
just covered in
Or
streams.
the Northwest.
You would want to find me. I have a water purification pump.
What's it
Well,
powered
even then,
by?
so what if he gets
A
Guardia?
pump.
I
You
mean,
pump it.
he'll
Oh,
be fine.
Okay, that works. Well, I just assumed pump. Okay, it's an electric pump, but no, that
No,
makes
it's
more
something
sense.
you take hiking. You can just
That makes
you stick one
a
in
butt
your
ton of
water bottle,
sense.
stick the other one in the lake. You pump the water into the water bottle, and it's clean.
Oh, is it like?
But even
a
without
filtration
purification
Well, what type- okay,
systems, the Cascades are pretty good. The
I mean, you
water
don't
there's
want
pretty
beaver
good.
fever.
He might get Guardia, but it's not the end of the world. It probably won't kill him.
Yeah, I've had it. Before.
Probably. Yeah, I've had Guardia too. It's annoying, but that's it.
I thought it was pronounced Giardia.
It might be.
Gyarados.
I like calling it Guardia.
Anyway,
But you're gonna have to pack in a lot of food because you can't hunt for squat.
Yep.
and there's
and there
no
really
Wikipedia.
Yeah, and besides meat like deer or bear or squirrels, there really isn't much food in the forest. I mean, there's wood sorrel and mushrooms, which you won't be able to identify from poisonous mushrooms. I mean, even people who know the difference between mushrooms often make mistakes. My little brother was on this big hiking thing, and he was with this guy who was an mushroom expert, and he's like, "Oh, look, it's a chanterelle or whatever," and he picks up this mushroom and he puts it in his mouth, and then he spits it out and goes, "Nope, that's a false chanterelle. Those will kill you."
No, okay. So also, how good of a shot are you?
I don't know. I've only done it a couple times.
So not good. So
I mean,
can't shoot to hunt.
actually, you know what?
Like, I'd worry more
Actually,
about
my
tracking.
house might actually be a pretty good place to temporarily chill for.
I'd say
a
that
while.
the Eatonville area, there's enough woods there where you could hide pretty well. I mean, there's also a lot of
I've got a
hillbillies.
forest right behind me.
I'm going to Northwest
It is
Trek, and I'm going to eat all the animals.
Northwest Trek is basically a zoo, but with animals that are already here.
Yeah, they have a free roaming
like
area with
elk
hundreds of deer and stuff,
deer
but they're
and-
stuck in an enclosed area with no other predators but me. And there's a cabin,
But you-
and there's a cabin on a lake there.
No other predators except you and everyone else who knows about Northwest Trek and is local.
Yeah, but honestly,
And that's the concern about staying on the west side of the mountains. There's way more people, and people are going to be a danger.
There's a herd of elk that feeds on our property every night from like August till, I don't know, maybe October, November. It was
Honestly,
there the other day. And I just
I'm not
looked up,
sure,
I was like, oh,
though,
hey, they're over there.
If
There's
the
also these
apocalypse
3 deer
happens,
that hang out there.
the herds of wild animals are going to be one of the worst to suffer because there's a lot of people who know how to hunt in Washington State, and they're going to decimate the herds.
there's a lot of
like,
horses
they're gonna-
and stuff that are like still in their pens around the area, though. They're not going anywhere.
Those will be one of the first to go. Like, all this meat is only going to last 3 or 4 months tops before
Right.
all the easy meat and the not easy meat has been hunted out by starving people.
Right, right.
I think Neefu's right to want to go to eastern Washington where there's more farming,
Yeah.
because that's the only sustainable way to stay in one spot. Otherwise,
Right,
you got to
right.
be nomadic.
Oh, definitely farming's important. I would be worried though about being on that particular farm
Why?
because it's miles of nothing but fields,
Yeah.
which
plenty of
is
fields.
not good in the apocalypse. You want something smaller
Well,
than that.
it's good and it's bad.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's true.
bad for finding new resources. It's good for isolating yourself from raiders.
And
Yeah.
you can see for miles each direction if anybody's coming.
Yeah, but first off, not if they're walking through the wheat. They can hide in the wheat pretty well.
I mean, again, I would guess that would
Yeah,
depend
but
upon when in the
raiders,
year.
if any raiders are going to get to his place, they'll have to be on some kind of transportation.
That's true. That's true.
So I mean, each hypothetical situation has its pros and cons.
It's true.
We just have to build a wind farm, a wind energy farm.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is we can't count on anybody else. We're just assuming that the 3 of us have survived.
And amount of other people who may or may not be hostile.
Yeah.
Like in Rust.
No, everyone's hostile and wrong.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I haven't actually run into anybody in that game other than you.
Good. You also haven't been shot on
So
sight.
honestly, if you're in a survival situation, people get really, like, hey, normally I would not think of stealing all your food at gunpoint, but I gotta feed my 3 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
People get pretty. Ugh.
Ugh.
I think that.
See, I might be in a. I don't know if it'd be I think I'm in a better spot than you guys are because there's so many
nobody up there.
survivalists around here and the population is much smaller.
Yeah, but it's also a lot colder.
True.
Oh, it is a lot colder, but people have been. I mean, the natives have been up here. Okay, 14% of the population is natives, and most of them still remember how to survive. How many? When was the last time you guys ran into a Native American down there?
I wonder. Okay, so general society stuff dies out. I wonder how much of the
there's no more law and
population
order.
would just die because of a lack of knowing how to do squat.
A lot. Nowadays, a lot.
It would be bad. I'm seeing several stages of civilization here. First, there's the initial one. People are scrounging everywhere.
What's the age
All the
gap
grocery stores are raided.
of young people that would just disappear because they have invested so much of their social, or like their identity in technology? I mean, I would definitely be at the edge of that thingy.
It would be weird.
Just imagining like all the teenagers just, I got no cell phone no more. I can't take no more selfies.
Go ahead,
Instagram
Mark.
is dead.
Yay! Go ahead, Mark.
Well, just like the first initial few months is going to be people living off of raiding Walmart, shooting deer, eating their pets, And then the next stage is probably going to be the hardest. People are going to start killing each other. Gangs are going to form. Small little settlement places are also going to form, and they're going to struggle to survive. And some will make it, and some won't. Neefu is hoping at that stage to be over on the farm.
Boat.
Boat.
We need to get a boat.
But then after a few years, it's going to settle down into 2 main groups. Those that survived, that are just little settlements that somehow have a at least semi-regular source of nutrition. And the raiders that survive, which will probably, they'll be like these new warlord guys who are like, hey, we got this. And they'll go around raiding the settlements. Or just like Bug's Life 7 Samurai showing up and saying, hey, give us all your food and we won't kill you this season. And then moving a big loop.
So, this is what we do. We go and we find a barge. And we go out into the ocean and we anchor it. And we survive on the barge. Every once in a while, making little trips inland to get more stuff. We get more barges and we build Barge Town. And we live on Barge Town, where we defend it with guns and killer whales.
You get motion sickness in the car,
Yeah, I do.
and you're wanting to live on a boat.
Yup. Because I want to live.
How good are you guys at fishing?
I've done it.
I've done it.
I'm not bad at it, but I also know how
Do
to
you
gut
think
I
fish.
you
would
could get enough
survive.
fish
I
to
would
live
suck
off of?
so tight to my father. So suck it. My father is like a hunter, fisher, outdoorsman extraordinaire. Not only would I be surviving the apocalypse, I would be getting all kinds of things to I don't know.
Till he traded you
Here's my
for
son.
ammunition.
He's got the stuff to refill his own stuff, or like to create his own bullets.
I would need to learn how to. I would have to build a thing for fletching because I would need to do that.
Fletching. Is that like vomiting?
No, it's making arrows.
It's the feathers and the arrows is the
Oh,
fletchings.
okay.
But those have to be evenly spaced along the bow. Or arrow, gosh, not bow. Yeah. But so I would need to know how to do that. And I mean,
What was I thinking? What word that sounds like
Retching?
fletching? Retching. There we go. Only a couple letters off.
Yeah, it's just interesting in Washington particularly, because you've got that real divide with the mountains. On the
Yeah.
west side, plentiful fuel, but food's going to be more of a problem. On the east side, lots of farming and food, but fuel is going to be a problem.
Actually, about maybe like a 45-minute drive away from the farm, there's actually a bit of a forest. So, I mean,
But I mean, a 35-minute drive.
correct.
How,
No, that
how
would
long is that walking?
it would be something you went to do every couple weeks when you needed firewood.
Are there horses up there? Anyone nearby have horses?
I'm sure there are. I
We'd
mean,
want to
there's
keep a couple
horses
of
well,
them
the thing,
alive.
Definitely be useful in Eastern
it's a middle of
Washington.
nowhere type
Wait a
place.
minute. There's a train nearby, yeah?
I think so.
Because it goes
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
the
yeah, the
tracks.
grain train.
If we could get an old train cart and we could break it down, I bet you I could make one of those like little crank movie train things because I can throw together crap like that. I would
Which
just need
direction
to have
does it go though? Because
It doesn't-
it ends right there.
well, it doesn't matter. That's a really quick way of traveling with very little fuel.
Well, the way I see it, you definitely won't be able to farm on the scale you did previously. You won't have the industrial fertilizers or the necessary irrigation, but you could probably scoop together something.
yeah.
Something like when in the immediate vicinity.
Especially if it's windy. I mean, there's got to be aquifers down there you can tap into with a windmill.
Finding it though without technology.
You know, even with all
Well,
the
you just gotta
gun,
drill down for an aquifer.
even with all the guns in the world, gunpowder is going to be something that's probably going to be a bit difficult to come by.
Guns are gonna.
Which means that swords and other weapons like that are going to all of a sudden become very, very popular.
Right. Well, I think that anyone in a post-apocalypse, you're gonna want to have a big slashy cutty weapon that you can use if it comes to it. Because first off, you're not gonna want to use what bullets you have if you have them, and
And
secondly,
they're loud and they give away your position.
yeah, and secondly, I mean, like a bow or a crossbow, that's not very good at close range at all. I mean, a gun you can use at close range just fine. But,
Yeah.
so.
But then
hacky
again, you
slashy.
also don't want to use your sword. You don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
Want to at least have the options. But I know you are really, really, really into swords.
Oh yeah. Well, I will have my kukri and that giant knife I have and
The katana
my
that's on
katana
the bed.
on my back. So I'll have a couple swords on
The
me.
Blade Master.
Well, definitely whatever swords we already have are going to be loads better than the swords we can make ourselves for a long time.
Yep. It's
So
true.
what, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something?
Something like that. Well, and then like that kukri I have is a really, really nice one. I mean,
Didn't you cut your own hand open with
well,
it?
yeah, that happened. But the point is though is that it's a really nice,
The point
really-
of your kukri.
really sharp knife
That the sharp point.
that was designed for
your
cutting
kukri.
off limbs. And I can throw it. I'm accurate at about
Shouldn't
30
throw
feet.
Your kukri away.
I wouldn't.
Do like a God of War chain
Oh.
on it. So you can just like always pull it back.
That's so. But you wouldn't be able to throw it then because the chain would mess up the throw.
Kratos
So
did
honestly, I think
Kratos was the
we
god of
would,
war.
He wasn't at first.
For a long time, improvised melee weapons would be more practical than making your own.
Yeah.
Baseball
Stuff
bats
like
with kitchen knives.
yeah,
attached
baseball
to it.
bats,
Crowbars,
chains
axes.
with some barbed wire strung through it.
That just reminded me in what was it? I think it was The Last of Us. One of the weapons you can get is you get like, oh yeah. What you did was you had a baseball bat and then you took a pair of scissors and you tied like the end of the scissors onto the baseball bat and it was a one-hit kill.
Wow.
But then there was another game that I was playing recently that has baseball bats covered in chain or in barbed wire.
Well, I mean, like even like a metal pipe that'll kill you.
Yeah. And the simple fact is, one, you are not going to get any new metal. That's
Yeah.
just not going to happen. Unless you are incredibly fortunate enough to have found a place to live on top of a mineral deposit, and you have enough know-how to recognize it as a mineral deposit, and you have enough fuel to process it, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
All the easy metal has been pretty much stripped out
Yeah.
by miners, because that's what they do. But there's going to be tons of just metal to improvise with around. I mean, in the cars and the everywhere, we got lots of
We
metal.
got like 8 cars that aren't being used, just chilling on my property.
I know the basic idea behind hardening leather to make like armors out of it. I would want to make armor.
Though
I mean,
making leather
Like medieval
is
armor?
tricky.
Oh, well, duh, you
Yeah.
said leather. You said
Well,
leather,
I would want to
not-
do whatever I could, but I mean, honestly, chainmail. If you can get a spool of wire, you can
I
make
would have a ton of wire.
chainmail. Yeah, and so I mean,
Yeah.
like, chainmail with like leather over it, and you can stand a couple good hits with stuff. I mean, obviously, you could still break bones, and it's gonna hurt like heck, but you could survive it possibly. Piercing weapons though are gonna be a problem.
Stabby, stabby, pokey, pokey. Stab him
Well,
with the pointy
defense is going to be less of a problem than offense for a while because people will still have guns.
Yeah,
And maybe you're being smart and you're saving your bullets, but if they're desperate, they're going to shoot you.
yeah, it's true.
It's going to take a while for all the bullets to be gone. And there will be some people still making bullets for a while because they're like Neefu's dad and know how to do it. And some people are probably going to figure out gunpowder, but that requires some very specific ingredients that are not widely available.
Right. Actually, you know what? I was just thinking about something. I think I would love to have a spear.
A spear? Why a spear?
Think
A
about it.
spear would be
You're
more practical than
yeah.
a sword as
You're
far as
fighting
construction
against-
goes.
Well,
People
but
that
you're-
are farther away.
You're fighting against people that, if we're in the melee stage here, they're using improvised melee weapons that they have no training with.
So just learn a spear.
You can keep them
At
8
a
feet
distance.
away. They get close, you spear them.
The phalanx formation! The post-apocalyptic phalanx formation. That's what it was called, right? With all the spears?
Well,
The Romans
yeah.
did with the spears, trying to keep
Yeah.
people far away, really good against horses.
Yeah.
No, the Romans didn't do the phalanx. That was the
Greeks.
Greeks.
I don't remember, dude. I was
But,
just thinking from the Rome Total War.
But yeah, what you're thinking though is phalanx.
Kind of need a lot of people for a phalanx.
But yeah, I think a spear would actually be a great weapon. I mean, you wouldn't want it to be your only weapon. You'd probably still want to have some kind of close-up melee, because the weakness to a spear is that once you get past the point, it's all stick.
Well, it could be a modded spear. Maybe like stick some like knives on the ends and stuff, so that if
That's
they
just
try to
silly.
push themselves on
That's
it.
just silly.
I don't know.
Yes.
Or you could wrap it with barbed
spears
wire.
and axes. Those are things you can bang out a lot easier than a sword. A
Yeah.
sword, it's a lot of time and energy, not just physical energy, but like fuel
Yeah.
required to make a sword. And if you make it wrong, it will just shatter into lots of pieces.
Definitely. I don't know.
Zam and I just watched like an hour documentary on the history and the production of, or the tradition in creating katanas. I found it incredibly
Actually,
fascinating.
pretty
You know, when you said that, it made me realize bows are going to be a lot more important than melee weapons.
Yeah.
Because those are more easy
They
to
are.
restock.
Not only
For
that, but samurai
ammunition.
themselves. We think of samurais as being all about the katana,
Oh, they had those bows.
but in the age where samurais were actually fighting the most, they considered the sword to be kind of a lesser weapon to the bow. Like if someone got close enough to you that you had to use your sword, that was almost dishonorable. Samurai were masters of the bow first, sword
they had
second.
a weird bow too.
Mm-hmm. Was that the one that they were using to launch the arrows at the guy?
Yeah, in the documentary, they were shooting arrows at the sword master guy, and he was cutting them in half in midair because he was crazy.
No, they were
I'm
talking
gonna
about
go to
like
his house.
there are only a few people left in the world who use the traditional style of creating the metals necessary for the katanas, and it requires this like one-time use. Would you call it a kiln?
I guess.
One-time use
Smelter.
oven, I guess, where they would like over the course of 3 or 4 days, where they did not sleep a wink, would be constantly pouring like this iron sand into it to create this
I feel so stupid.
blob of metal.
I was thinking, where would I get arrowheads? Metal's gonna be a pain. Rocks are too big of a pain. I wish I could get obsidian. I just use glass.
That's true. That's a good point.
Salvage glass or make your own glass?
I would use salvaged whenever I could.
Mark
Because
knows how to make his
glass
own
is
glass.
actually one of the few things that is practical to produce from scratch if you live on the beach. If you don't live on the beach, you're not going to make glass anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, we don't live on the beach, and we won't be living on the beach from what I can tell.
The beach seems like a horrible place to go during the post-apocalypse.
Not a lot of resources.
But glass will be a good
And
trade good. I mean, you
windy
can make
water
forest glass if you live in a woods, but it sucks, and it's really hard to make.
Weren't you saying something about the fact that like it was water permeable or something?
Yeah, glass, just raw glass made from sand, is... Everything I've said says it doesn't hold water very well, and that just seems
Everything
weird
you've
to
read,
me.
or you said
read.
everything you said?
Everything I've read.
Okay.
Sounds like said. When I get excited, I mix up my words. To make it actually really good, hard, tough glass, you got to put in calcium carbonate, which is really easy to find, as that's what seashells are made out of, and snail shells, and limestone. So as long as you have one of those things, you'll be all right.
I would want to get a hold of a cow, though, really badly. I mean, milking a cow is almost no work. And milk...
Still have to feed it.
Yeah, but I mean, it eats grass.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to feed it grains,
You'd have to have a
too,
cow
but-
that's lactating.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you could just find one and not, make it into hamburgers and keep that locked away.
Or keep it locked away. Yeah.
And then, I don't know how to make cheese, but we would need to learn how to make cheese.
Mark knows how to make cheese.
Of course Mark knows how to make cheese.
I do know how to make cheese. You just need a cow's stomach. What are you going to do now?
Kill
Well,
her
I hear you
husband.
can also do it with thistle root, but that's kind
Or
of
just
weird.
wait for a baby to be born and then kill
the baby. Then we'd need two.
Kill the baby.
We need a bull and a cow.
I mean, you're gonna need a bull and a cow.
We'd need to be ranchers when it comes down to it, because those are going to get old. We need more cows.
Or I would just go to the Eastern Washington to my girlfriend's family, and they've got cows.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying though is, I mean, we would want cows on top of the wheat, because I mean, bread.
Cows and cows.
Do you even
and
know how to
cows.
make bread?
Not a clue.
What I mean,
I'll
'cause
figure it out.
you
It's
have
really
wheat.
easy.
You have wheat. What are you going to do with that?
I don't. We're not playing this game. How do you know how to survive in the apocalypse?
I could make bread. It would probably. I mean, unless I had a source of yeast, it would be flatbread, but it would be bread.
Well, everybody has a source
Oh, yeah,
of yeast.
and I revealed the secrets of yeast to Neefu the other day. Does he remember it?
Yeah. All you do is you have this clean dish that you set out with like flour and water, or do you wait for it to grow first before you put the flour and water?
No,
in?
equal parts flour and water mixed together.
And then the yeast will just arrive magically from space.
Well, there you go. You know what would be really important? Salt.
Oh dear God, no! I can't live in a world without salt.
You're gonna have to boil your own pee.
If that's what it takes to get salt. I cover everything in salt. And especially in a world where
salt's gonna be a
flavors and
problem in
seasonings
Eastern Washington.
are going to be all, oh gosh.
See, like, I know a lot of basics about actually, like, surviving for a short amount of time. I don't know about
My
much
dad
about-
has boxes and boxes of MREs.
MREs are nasty.
But they're fun.
That'll be helpful in stage 1 of the apocalypse.
Good for you. You survived stage 1.
And then I head east.
I don't think that I don't think you would survive the trek east. That's a
if he
long
did-
ways to go.
If he did, and he got to that farm, that would be a good stage 2 part. But now we're in stage 3, long term. Now we're
Long term.
asking, where's he going to get salt? You know?
Back to the ocean.
No ocean around, though, is there? I mean, I
Oh,
don't,
no, it's 400, 500 miles away from the ocean.
yeah, that's what I thought.
That's what I'm saying. Back to the ocean.
Yeah. Well, you could
Now,
live without salt, though.
hopefully,
No, I
You'd
could
get-
not.
when
You
enough
would get used
time
to it.
passes,
Civilization will start to
Hopefully-
rebuild itself.
there might be some trade where whatever settlements survive on the ocean might trade salt for inland stuff. But that's going to take a long time. I'm going to call that stage 4, when civilization is actually picking itself back up again.
Beekeeping.
Beekeeping.
Honey would be sweet.
Yeah, sweetener also hard to find. Unless
That
you
would-
grow
that's like a
sugar
naturally
beets over there.
produced-
Do you grow any sugar beets?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nah, just wheat and some potatoes, I think, which would be important if you could get a hold of some of those potato starts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, beans would also be good. Beans have protein in them. Because that's going to be a worry for living on a
Yeah.
place with a bunch of wheat.
Well, On that starchy note, we've come to the end of episode 35 of Cool Down Timer.
Question of the week is, how are you going to survive the apocalypse? Let us know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anybody else have any closing thoughts?
Bring us your salt and we'll trade you. See you next
Trade
week.
salt for babies.
No, we don't need babies.
No, we give them babies. They give us salt.
See you next week. Cool down timer, yeah.